Hey, Nick Granville here from Wellington, New Zealand. I just decided to post a video lesson on the minor pentatonic scale. I noticed a lot of people had struggled with this and they sort of could pretty much only play the first shape or were very limited in how they could use this. This is the first shape here. Right, so the notes are G, B flat, C, D, and F. And that's it. It just repeats again. G, B flat, C, D, F, and we're back to G and then B flat. And that's the first shape. So if you're unfamiliar with that, you need to know that first. There's heaps of lessons on YouTube around about that already, so I won't cover that. So it's just those five notes, as I mentioned: G, B flat, C, D, and F. But of course we want to be able to play these all across the neck, not just in that one position. And what I find a lot of people do is they learn that first position, but they don't know the other positions very well. So position 2 is starting from B flat. First we started on G, second one starts on B flat. And what we're going to do is here is we're going to play the same set of notes, but with a new shape in this position. So we now have B flat, C, D, F, and then we're back to G. Then G, B flat, C, D, F, G. And we end up with a shape that looks like this. Now, correct fingering, I should really use my second and my fourth finger on the top strings here, like so. Except my feeling on it is that whenever you play scales or shapes or anything, they should be related to music. Could you imagine Eric Clapton going, for example? I mean, I can barely do that with my little finger, it's very difficult. Clapton would more likely go with his third finger. So I think practice scales as you mean to play. So for me, the fingering is this: second, fourth, first, fourth, first, fourth, first, third, then move up into first, third, first, third. All right, and all of these scales I'm going to cover, I'm going to do the same things where the fingerings are going to be directly related to playing, not necessarily technically what you should be doing. So the third one is this. Right, so the notes are starting from C, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, D, F, G, B flat, C, and D. Right. The fourth one starts from D, and we have I'll do that slowly. And then the fifth shape starts from F here. So the important thing to note with the fingering there is I went first, third, first, third, first, fourth, first, fourth, first, third, first, third. Right. So I'm going to put that up on my website, nickgranville.com. So if you go and check that out, there'll be a link at the end. Go and you can get the diagrams of all of those and how they relate. So the first thing to do, just running up and down them is valuable. So just running up and down them like that, but that's not really music, that's just running scales. So one thing that I'd recommend you do straight away is to start working on patterns. Patterns are a really good way to sort of expand your ears and expand your knowledge of these scales. And patterns happen all the time in this music. So I would recommend that you learn those. Here's a common pattern. So this one goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first part. Then we start from the second note and we go 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So I'll call that grouping in fours. So 4 notes, first 4 notes of the scale, and then start from the second note and do 4 notes. Start from the third note and do 4 notes. Right, of course, do it with all the other shapes. I'll take the third shape, for example. So on and so on. Get the idea. And then I think it's really important to remember to play good time and play with a good tone when you do this. If you're doing those two things, these various patterns will be musical rather than just patterns. And it's not about doing them fast. It's about doing them with great tone and great time, like I just said. Some other patterns are worth exploring are groups of 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, and so on and so on. And do that all with all of the shapes. Right, and then do the same thing, but we're going to do a pattern where we're going to play 3. So we're going to go from the first to the third note, then we're going to go second to the fourth note, then third to the fifth. So it'll be first to the third note. So we skip the second, and then second to the fifth, or fifth to the scale, I should say. That's really the fourth note. Right, and of course do them backwards. Shapes, say the fourth shape. Right, and so on and so on. So the next step is to be able to bridge them and have that all become one shape. I mean, I don't view them as positions anymore. The way I now do it is that I see it all as just G minor pentatonic. So it's G, B flat, C, D, and F. That's it, and that comes all the way across the neck. So we're not just trying to play position 1, position 2, position 3, so on. We're trying to play one big position. For example, so you see there, I sort of was playing in amongst all of them and combining them together. And there's some great exercises you could do with that. I mean, taking those patterns again, if you took the pattern that was in groups of 4s and you did it rather than doing it in a position, say you did it along one string or 2 strings even, and then did into the next position, into the next position. Of course, you can do the same thing on the next strings. It's going to challenge your knowledge of these things. Right, and you could do any of the patterns that you did before, but now taking an approach of vertical rather than position. And that's going to start to blend all those positions to make one big giant position, which is really your goal. So one thing you can do sort of straight off is to start, maybe starting here, and try and play the scale up the neck. Right, so G, B flat, C, D, F, G. So I played the G minor pentatonic, but now I'm taking it this approach. I would think of that as a vertical approach or going up the neck. I mean, this could be seen as vertical as well, but really it's this direction for me. Okay, so as I alluded to before, you could also do these along one string. You could go, and I mentioned that earlier. Well, that's in G. These are all in G minor. So you could do the same thing on, say, the next string. Instead of starting on G, we might start with C, because that's the first note we can play on that string. There is no B in the scale, so we can't play that note. So we start on a C. So now we play the minor pentatonic, but we start from the C. So we have C, D, F, G, B flat, C, and D. Right? And then we could do the same thing on the next string. G string. Well, we have a G note because it's a G minor pentatonic. So we go G, B flat, C, D, F, G. Same on the next string. So that really is taking a vertical approach to the same scale across all strings. Okay, so one thing that's really important when doing this is to keep the root note really solidly in your mind, because when you're starting from, say, a C note on that next string, it could sort of sound like a mode of some sort from the C. That could sound like C is your root note, but you really need to hold that G in your mind. So see there, I was just holding the G note down. So you keep that G note in your mind. And play the... There's our root note. Does that make sense? So that's a really good thing to do, to keep that root note in your mind, and then you'll be solid about what you're playing and how you're playing it. The way I do it when I'm working on that to keep the root note really clearly in my mind is that I have a ditto looper pedal, and I create a loop. So just created a loop before where, which is just a G minor vamp, and then when I'm practicing these I do them with the looper. Right, so you can hear that. Now I'll use that to improvise. So you can see there I was taking an approach of doing this. A couple of times I sort of broke the rules and did a couple of other things, but that's all right. Now try and doing the same thing, but doing intervals out of these. So for example, we did these first to third earlier, second to fourth, this pattern that we did, right? Well, I'm playing individual notes to do that, but I could also do them as dyads or two-note chords. So, right. So there I have G and C at the same time, B flat and D, C and F. Right. And of course do those through all the positions. And then try taking an approach, a vertical approach to the same thing. So that'll really start to expand that, and you could do any two notes. I just chose those two notes because they came from our pattern that we did earlier, but you could do any two notes. You could do these two notes, for example. Alright, again, put the looper on and try improvising and using those. Oops, wrong note. Alright, so you get the idea. You can see the whole idea of what I'm trying to do with this lesson is to get you to think this way across the neck rather than position playing, which position playing is useful, but it's you want to eventually get to the point where you can expand that position playing so it just becomes one giant position across the whole neck. And also remember the 4 T's: tone, time, taste, and technique. Right? Now, I wrote about them in my blog, so you can check that out. But tone is the sound you make. Time is your rhythm, your sense of pulse, all those sorts of things. Taste is the way in which you play it, your own expression, what you're trying to say. And then technique is the way in which you're playing it. So making sure you're on your fingertips, making sure your thumb's in a good position, not this, which is awkward. It wants to really be like that. It's your hand in that kind of position. Cool, thanks for watching. I hope you liked that, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be making a lot more of these in the future. I really enjoy doing it, and I have had a lot of people ask for it. So yeah.